Hey guys, I'm Jason and we are in our shop, Fat Fender Garage here in Gilbert, Arizona. Right behind me I have a really cool chassis. It's a 1953 to 1956 Ford F-100. As far as I'm concerned, the 53 to 56s are the quintessential hot rod pickup truck out there. If you got one, count yourself lucky. Keep it. They're super cool. They're getting harder and harder to come by, and they're getting more and more expensive to purchase. And so we're going to talk about a chassis, but the first thing is go to our website. If you haven't been there, button says chassis, fill out the form, and it's going to give you a lot of information about some of the options. Also give you a little bit of a price and lets us know if you're interested, and then I can reach out to you, meaning I will call you on the phone and we'll talk about your project and what you need. This is designed for the guy that, in my opinion, is a little extreme, likes to make a little bit of a statement, willing to just kind of show up and just kind of let the air out and just say, look at me, right? This is designed for the running boards. This running board is going to be right on the ground. Now that's important. I've seen a couple other air ride chassis out there and they don't quite have the geometry down. They're 1.5 inches off the ground. And I always say, if your goal is to go to the ground, why not just go all the way to the ground, right? We usually keep you about 1/8 of an inch slightly off the ground based off a concrete surface, just in case you're out in the dirt, you lay the air out in the grass and it's a little bit out of whack, or a rock or something won't damage a running board or something like that. So your front cab mounts, your rear cab mount here, and then this starts your bed mount right here. So you got a bed mount here, a rear bed mount here. Now those are the 4 points that we're going to give you for your bed. When you're doing an air ride suspension, you're going to have to raise it up to here. And so you're going to have to build a new floor in here. Now, if you have mounted there and you've mounted here and you've got this nice and sturdy and supported, that's usually good enough. You don't need to be crazy and have 2 more mounts here and 2 more mounts here. Now, if you felt like you needed it, there's some bolts here that you could add a bracket to it and you could bolt to it. This is a customer that we actually built a truck for, and he had another chassis out there. He didn't like the ride quality, it didn't handle very well. He wanted to get a brand new chassis and wanted one of these portable chassis that we put together. So we're gonna move everything over here, reassemble it back together, clean up a little bit of the wiring, and he'll take off and cruise. Now, he's got a Gen 2 Coyote motor that he initially had in his truck. We did that several years ago for him. He's going to reuse it. We've made some modifications internally, and he's decided that he wants to put 2 twin turbos on here. So that's going to be a kit that we're going to make for the 53, 56s Coyotes, where if you're doing our chassis and you want twin turbos, you'll be able to actually get that. All the chassis that we build and make here are all designed for you to be able to swap your sheet metal over. You can send that to another shop, you can send it to us, we can do it for you in right around 3 to 4 months. So get you back on the road as quick as we can. We're able to fit this motor pretty well. The frame rails are a little bit wider than some of the F1, and so we're able to fit our exhaust. The reason why we don't have exhaust on this yet is we have to design the whole turbo system and have that running back. Now, this has the airbags here, and this is the air, and we've actually hard-lined with aluminum. So we actually turn it all on, we run it, and we make sure that everything's sealed up, and we like it to hold for several days. We'll air it all up, we'll walk away, we'll pull some measurements, and then we'll check it every day. If it's leaking in a certain corner, then we'll look at all those airlines and see if there's something we need to address. We use all AN fittings and use a sealant on it, so it actually seals up pretty good. He ordered some Wilwood calipers, had those powder coated a certain color. That's an upgrade you can purchase. It's like $650 for the front, $650 for the back. Can be a little expensive, but if you're that type of guy where you want to have something a little bit different, we can cater to you. We can Cerakote these and color match them to just about anything you want. There's a couple different things about air ride that I find important. 1, it needs to be serviceable. 2, it shouldn't conflict with anything else in the build, and it shouldn't make it difficult to work on. So we don't have our air tank, our compressors, our fuel tank, and everything kind of right back here sitting. Looks a little bit simpler, and that is because it's designed to be that way for a reason. Maybe there is an issue with my fuel pump. I'm not anticipating, but maybe there is. I need to get to this, disconnect my line, I can take my fuel pump out, I can easily access it. That's really important. So there's a lot of decisions. I mean, if I just sold you a chassis and I didn't ask you about your tank, I didn't ask you about gearing, your tire width, how much power you're gonna put, I didn't talk to you about your splines, your yokes, you might wanna reconsider the chassis you're purchasing from someone else. Extremely important when you're designing and putting a product together. Air management is also one of them. The air management company that we use on all of our chassis is owned by a company called AccuAir. The valves are inside it. It makes plumbing a little bit easier for us. There's a lot less lines. It's a little bit simpler. We do have a bracket where we can actually put the compressors right here, or we can put them on the side of the frame. You got your aluminum lines, they go into here, and then they plumb here, and then they split and go to the front and back. Very straightforward, very simple, very good tank. We can actually do a mill finish, a polish finish, with Cerakote finish. There's just a lot of options. One of the cool things I like about AccuAir is their controller. Now, this is their new E-level controller. The other one was just slightly a little bit bigger. We haven't programmed ours, we just have it up and running. It's operable, level 1, 2, 3. Depending upon what ride height you want, you can push these buttons, automatically just takes your truck to that level. So it's straightforward. You don't have to double tap buttons and do weird things. And so you can control all 4 corners. You can also air it all out, blinks and flashes, different things, and it tells you what's happening. So very important. Now, these require sensors to be put on all 4 corners. That sensor has to travel a certain degree, and you want it to travel within that range. Your tire size, front and back, will determine that range, and so it gets a little bit tricky for us to actually know exactly where that sensor is. We will help supply some brackets and hardware so that you can easily get that on. Find that it's most accurate when you have your wheels and tires on it, install your sensors, and then as you go up and down, you know exactly where to put it. Let's go ahead and try it out for fun. We'll go ahead and air this out. You can kind of take a look and see what an air ride chassis does without clothes on, basically. Some weight. I had to stand on it to actually make it go down. Your running board's gonna sit right here, and it's gonna be right on the ground right here. And these new Viair compressors just really are super quiet, and they work very well. Now you can add another tank if you wanted to, double piggyback these tanks, get a dummy tank that doesn't have all the valves. It can actually plumb those together, and you can fill up more air, especially if you're gonna go to a show, constantly airing out, back up, airing out. But for normal driving, 1 tank usually works pretty good. Air that back up. So you can see you get a fair amount of travel in there. You're gonna get right around 6 inches, and then your good quality shock. Battery brackets, we actually provide this with dual batteries. Store your batteries back here, and then wire up your truck. It also hides the batteries so that you don't have to put anything underneath the floor, because we've already taken up a lot of space. So it's a perfect spot. You can purchase these as an option. Everything's always prepped and ready to go. As you can see, you've got a bridge here that has to raise your floor, because as it goes down, you need this travel space right here. Anytime you do a level 2 or a level 3, this is gonna have to be raised up and raise your bed floor. We try to keep it as low as we can, but yet still provide the room and space required. Here you're gonna have a nice Watts link. It helps keep housing nice and centered on your frame so you're not sliding back and forth. Billet turnbuckles right here are super cool. You also can see PV Fab. That's something that he makes and designs in-house. And an air ride chassis, a lot of things become super critical when you're assembling these. You want to make sure you get a front sway bar, make sure you get a rear sway bar, which this will get, we just haven't got it installed yet. And the reason why you have a sway bar is because that just prevents a roll that you get, especially when you're on air. If you really want to control that body roll that you're going to get, front and rear sway bars. So all chassis come with a front sway bar, and then the option is the rear sway bar. If you're doing air ride, in my opinion, it's not an option, you should purchase it. Flaming River power steering rack. It's really the very best on the market. We want to minimize leaks. We want it to last a long time, and it's made in the USA. So if there's any issues, we already have them in stock. I'll send you out a brand new one. You send that one back to me, no questions asked, and then we'll send it to Flaming River, and they'll take care of us on it. So when you get your tie rod ends made out of billet Wilwood spindle here, and you have a super nice quality product. This is a 2.5-inch drop spindle. You got 14-inch rotors on here, and you're going to have a sealed hub bearing, kind of like the Corvette style. No spindle, no grease caps. It's going to be something that is more robust. This is no Mustang II spindle. This is a heavy-duty custom piece designed by Wilwood that is a nice cast aluminum, and it is very robust and thicker and bulkier than a Mustang II. I think Mustang IIs are kind of going out of style. I don't even know why we use them anymore. A lot of chassis companies do, and the reason why is because it's just cheap. So when you're building a super nice truck, I think the foundation, the chassis is not something you should cheap out on. When you do your 53, 56, if you have a stock chassis, you really only have about 9 inches in your fender. Doesn't really allow for much wheel back there. A lot of times we'll put like a mini tub inside here. That'll get us like a 10.5 inch wheel. Big enough mini tub, you can get 12s back here. You don't even have to touch the outside. But if you're looking to just keep it all stock, about an 8.5, 9 inch is the max you're going to get. And on a twin turbo application or a supercharger or a Coyote motor in general, better to go bigger if you can. Because it's air ride though, we're gonna mock it all up. We're gonna double check our measurements. We're gonna make sure we get the right offset for this to work. A 35 spline, we've got a 1350 yoke. We can do all the geometry in a single drive shaft. You don't actually have to have a bearing. There's enough center here with its movement that we can get by with just a single drive shaft, not a two-piece. It's designed to actually accommodate everything you would like to do for your truck. 3/16 bent and formed Porterbuilt welds together. Take a look at their weld joints. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Stainless steel brake lines, everything plumbed. Your fuel lines are ran internally in here because we got room, and then we'll put a whip up there for the fuel line. So everything's protected and sealed the very best we possibly can with this chassis. Now, we also powder coat it. Powder coating isn't powder coating. When your chassis is actually done and finished, you got 2 layers of powder coating. It's protected. The sheen on it is super high end looking, easy to maintain, and more chemical resistant than just regular powder coating. No one else in the industry does that. For me, it's just providing absolutely the very best product we can. So when I sell you a chassis and you're like, man, Jason, that's more than ABC, I can say, yeah, that's because I put more into it than ABC. I'm building a chassis the way I want a chassis built. The way, if I'm building my own truck, this is how I want my chassis. I don't want to go out there and say, well, you know, I'm building my truck and I'm going to go cut corners over here. I would never do that on my stuff, because the more corners I cut, the more problems I introduce into the build, and so I make sure that I'm not ever doing that. We're not this high mass producing, crank them out, just get them out. We don't really care. We really do care. We want to make sure that every chassis has been tailored and designed specifically for your ride quality, your build, what you're trying to accomplish. I know there's a lot of information here, and you might even have more questions. You can drop some in the comments. You definitely can email me, Jason at fatfendergarage.com, or you can drop me an email if you're regarding the chassis at chassis@fatfender.com. But the easiest thing to do, go to the website, click the button that says chassis. That will send me an email. Let me know you're interested. It'll give you roughly a ballpark price. There's a lot of options on chassis. We can talk about those options and what you want to do, how much horsepower, what motor, and then we can accommodate that for you. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and we'll continue to update you with all the other products that we have for 5356. Appreciate your support here at Fat Fender Garage. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.